Hey, what's up guys? It's Rick with the Digital Divide, and today I want to talk about the PlayStation 5 Pro. Now this is a console that has been rumored to be in development for a few years now, but it was officially unveiled today by Sony, and there's a lot to discuss here. Cosmetically, this looks a lot like the PlayStation 5 Slim that Sony released not too long ago, although there are some cosmetic differences. As you can see here, these black fins on either of the side panels is new for this model, but other than that, it looks very similar to the PlayStation 5 Slim that you can see here. Now, it is a little bit bigger and a little bit heavier than the PS5 Slim, so if you have any custom side plates that you bought for your current PlayStation 5, they are definitely not going to fit here. Now, Sony didn't go over a lot of specifics when it comes to hardware, but they did touch on a few things when it comes to hardware, and we're going to discuss those today and also talk about some of the rumored specs for this thing. Sony really emphasized that they wanted to improve in 3 areas.
PS5 Pro substantially improves over PlayStation 5 in 3 ways. Here's what we call the Big 3. First, we made the GPU much larger and increased the speed of the memory it uses. The result is rendering that's up to 45% faster. Second, we made major upgrades to the ray tracing, taking a streamlined and accelerated approach that allows calculation of the rays at double or even triple the speeds of PlayStation 5. And finally, we added custom hardware for machine learning and an AI library called PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution, or PSSR for short. PSSR analyzes the game images pixel by pixel and can add an extraordinary amount of detail, which boosts the effective resolution of the games.
Now, when we compare the PlayStation 5 Pro's GPU against other current generation consoles, this is how it stacks up, with the Xbox Series S at the bottom of the rung with only 4 teraflops of computational power. The PlayStation 5 is next in line with 10.28 teraflops. The Xbox Series X is a step above that at 12 teraflops, and then finally we have the new PlayStation 5 Pro, which is going to sit at around 33.5 teraflops in computational power. So this is a significant increase, particularly when you're looking at the GPU side of things. So this places the PlayStation 5 Pro somewhere in the ballpark of an RTX 3070 when it comes to its GPU. So what about the things that aren't changing? Well, the system still has the same Ryzen Zen 2 processor with 8 cores and 16 threads. They didn't really need to change that too much. And the system also still has 16 gigabytes of RAM, so that is not changing either. Now, Sony emphasized that with the PlayStation 5, you typically get to choose from one of 2 modes. You get a fidelity mode, which means that you get all the visual bells and whistles like ray tracing. It's going to run at a higher resolution, you're going to have better effects, but the frame rate is going to be capped at 30 frames per second. Or you can go with the performance mode, and the benefit there is that you get 60 frames per second. So the controller response is better, it's a lot more smooth, but you don't have some things like ray tracing, for example, and a lot of the visual features are pared down. With the PlayStation 5 Pro, Sony is saying that you're no longer really going to have to make those choices. You're going to be able to play games at the equivalent of fidelity settings, meaning you get the higher resolution, you get the ray tracing features, you get the improved shadow resolution, all the bells and whistles are going to be there without having to sacrifice the frame rate. So you'll get the best of both worlds, and that's due in part to their new PSSR technology. This is just an upscaling technology that was pioneered by NVIDIA, and this essentially allows the system to render the game at a lower internal resolution and then use really advanced upscaling to make it look like a native 4K image. So should you switch to the new PlayStation 5 Pro? Well, that's going to depend on a lot of things. Let's address the elephant in the room here, and that's the price, which is $700 US. That is an insane amount of money for a console in 2024, and that's going to be off-putting to a lot of people. It's going to be a barrier to entry. Another issue here is that the PlayStation 5 Pro does not come with an optical drive. So if you have a stack of physical games laying around like I do, and I imagine a lot of people do, you can't play those on this system. That is going to be a huge issue. And I'm having a hard time understanding why Sony would make this decision, because they still sell physical media and none of that will work. So while they are taking away physical media, they are giving you a much larger hard drive. The PlayStation 5 Pro now comes with 2 terabytes as the default internal SSD storage size, which is fantastic. Now, Sony does plan to eventually release an external optical drive for the PlayStation 5 Pro so that you can play physical media on it, but it's going to come at an additional cost of $79.99. But after tax, that's going to put the system at nearly $800, which is unheard of for a home video game console, and I suspect that most people will probably stick with their current PlayStation 5 as a result of the cost. So to sum everything up, the PlayStation 5 Pro is releasing on November 7th, 2024. It's going to cost $699.99, and pre-orders begin on September 26th. Now that's really all we know for the most part on this new piece of hardware so far, but let me know in the comments below if you plan to pick one up and what your thoughts are on the price. As always, thank you for watching.